want to ask a favor of you. Once you hear the answer to your question,
can everyone see my screen and hear me okay?
Your screen is okay, but I'm not too sure where this music is coming from.
Unmute. I'm unmuted. I should be unmuted.
Here are 3 pieces of advice from eToro users on how to trade safely during a period of increased market volatility. First, monitor your...
This is coming from yours, Taya. I don't know how. I've just muted you.
Oh. Is it okay now?
It's these pop-up videos that come in on YouTube. Whether you want.
Oh, it may have been the beginning of the YouTube. Sorry, guys.
I know.
Right. Yeah, Taya, if you can jump on the admittance net, let me.
Yep. No problem.
Everyone said they can see my screen, okay? Yeah.
Yep, we can see.
All righty. Let's get this started. So, welcome everybody. London Excel meetup. We've got Patrick here with us today. Patrick's actually presented with us before. I don't know, like over a year ago, I think. It's difficult to get it together. So some of you might be aware of him anyway, or you might have been a member of us when he presented the first time. Quite a fun one here today in a way, working with puzzles, working with Wordle, but at the same time, lots of knowledge. Text is text, numbers is numbers at the end of the day, and it doesn't matter what you're using. You are learning Excel, and tons of formulas coming our way. Just a couple of the usual stuff, guys, to mention. I remember last meetup was, I don't know, about 5 weeks ago or something, and I didn't have a great deal of events to mention to you then. So I'm a little bit disappointed to only mention a couple here now. I've been kind of sidetracked by books and whatnot, but I promised to get some booked in. We do have an in-person one for those in and around or happy to be in London. Sue Bays is going to be with us on Tuesday the 14th for one of our in-person events, talking about data models and kind of how we can work and efficiently work with data there. I've got one in the line for July as well there, so it's not confirmed, I haven't mentioned it yet, but in-person one again for July is close to confirmed. And it's miles off just because of the way things have worked, but Wednesday 23rd of November there is an online one, which will be Melina, who is also somebody who's actually presented before as well. That was January last year. I remember that because it was kind of kicking off the year. I think it was last year, but anyway, it was January. And that's coming back to something interesting. It's auto filter, something that I'm extremely confident to say we all use, but I guess it's showing maybe some of its secrets. I always love stuff like that. I like teaching stuff like that. Features which everybody's used a million times, but showing little settings, little things that nobody ever knew was there, kind of stuff. So I'm sure that's the kind of thing Melina's got lined up, which was interesting. These little kind of tips, these little secret sessions. The rest of this is pretty standard stuff for those of you who spend lots of time with us. But for anyone who might be new, we are live on YouTube at the moment. The link to that is in the description of this meetup, and that same link is where the recording will be. So if you need to watch this back for any reason, to go over any stuff when we share Patrick's file and whatnot, I'll just see Taya's put it into the chat as well. But that link is on the meetup page, and it will also be sent to you in a follow-up email. And that leads me to the bullet point on the end there, saying that the follow-up emails only ever get sent to those who RSP to the event. So who have kind of put their name down as attending. So if you want that email with the follow-up file from Patrick, and I'll provide details for upcoming events and stuff, then make sure you RSVP. Otherwise, that is me. And as usual at this point, I will stop my share and ask Patrick to introduce himself and take over.
Thank you, Alan. I just turn on my video here and give a wave to everybody. I'll be talking for about a half an hour, maybe 3/4, depending upon how fast I go. I tend to get distracted and speed up. So if I'm going too fast, tell me to whoa there a bit. This presentation is based upon a bit of fun that I did. My normal work is conventional Excel, data processing and solution development in Excel and VBA and all that kind of thing, the odd bit of training. And I thought I'd have a go at the Wordle game in Excel because it was during lockdown and I wanted some diversion. And the presentation will have two parts to it. One is the Excel game itself, the game of Wordle built in Excel. And the second is a helper spreadsheet that I developed, which enables you to work with the real Wordle, but solve an unknown word. The Excel version of Wordle that I did is pretty basic stuff. I intended it to work in any version of Excel back to 2013, maybe even earlier if anybody cares to try it. Whereas in the helper, I had a bit more fun with dynamic arrays and Lambda and that kind of stuff. So I hope that as I go on to the presentation, I'll be explaining these things. It's pretty much a talk from an Excel screen. So once I turn off my video, I'll go over to share the screen, and I better make sure now that this works before I do anything else. Share screen. Okay, you should now see, yeah, the workbook there. Thank you. That bit worked, right? So I'll begin with the game and then I'll go on after that. If there's anything people actually don't understand and is holding you up, pop a message into the chat and I'll see what needs a bit more explanation. If it's more a question of how would you do this, I can wait that until the end and handle it in the Q&A at the end. So this is the plan of the whole thing. I just swipe this now and that's it, right? Okay, so I'll start at the beginning. This began with a WordPress blog post some time ago, back in January, where I posted an initial version of the game, and I've given on this sheet, I'm giving some of the links to the sources of information where I got, for example, things like word lists. I've updated the blog post slightly to include some corrections that I received over the last while. So it began with this blog post. And as we went on, I began to add more and more, as happens. Now, just in case if anybody on who hasn't tried Wordle, or people reading this video stream sometime later, it's a game designed by Josh Wardle and currently owned by the New York Times. And it's a simple word guessing game. They're all 5-letter words. You're given one word to guess and you get 6 tries to guess it. After each try, the game will color a cell depending upon the success of your letters. So an orange letter means yes, the hidden word has a W in that position. A blue letter means it has an I, but not where you have it in your guess. And a gray letter is, well, that is not in the hidden word at all. So that's the high contrast color scheme. The default color scheme, if you happen to be using that, is that the correct one is green and the ones which are present but incorrect are amber. And the ones which are not in the word at all are gray. So that's the basis for Wordle. It's a very simple game and quite addictive, I have to say. I play it most days, and the objective is to try and get it done in obviously in as few tries as possible. Some people can do it in 2 and 3, usually 4 and 5 is more normal. So I wanted to create this in Excel, and the challenge that I set myself was I want to do it in using just Excel formulas, no VBA. Of course, I could have done it in VBA, but that would have been too obvious. It'd be too much like the actual game. I wanted to try it in pure Excel. And to get the coloring of the cell, yes, we have to use conditional formatting. So it turns the appropriate color depending on what kind of success you've had with the letter. And I put in some data validation to enforce rules like only 1 letter per cell and that kind of thing. There is in the official game, there's about 12,000 known 5-letter words in English. Some of them are quite obscure, but they are apparently in the Scrabble game. And there's about 2,000 words in a shorter list, which are the ones from the list from which the word you have to guess is picked. Josh got his partner to select the 2,000 words, so it would all be reasonably achievable. So there's none of the weirder ones in that. It does, however, have American spelling, which caused quite a bit of a stir on this side of the Atlantic when labor was spelled L-A-B-O-R. But that's the game it is, and you have to get used to it. For my French fans, I created a French version of the game. There is, of course, a French version of Wordle called Le Mot, and that's another fun thing to try. The only thing I had to be careful of with the French was I decided to remove all the accents. So A accused became just A. It would cause a frown in the Académie Française, but at least it means that there's no problem in typing the words on an ordinary keyboard. So this is the basic rule. It's 1 letter per cell, and you have to have a valid 5-letter word in every row. Valid in the sense that it exists in the big list of 12,000 words that I've put in behind the scenes. And I've got 1,100 words in my smaller selection for guessing. And formatting will help them change the color behind the letter. You have to work from top to bottom, left to right, up to bottom. You can't skip a row. And you have to complete a row before you go on to the next row. A few basic rules like that, which I try to enforce in the validation. So my design is a lot like this. We need, first of all, a list of valid words, the 12,000 words. And I put that into a column and gave it a range name of 2 underscores. You will notice as you read this that the formulas were not designed for comprehensibility. That's part of the design feature of the game that I released. However, in this presentation and in this workbook, I am explaining everything. So you will see how all the formulas work, and in many cases I've added extra columns to add helper columns to explain things slightly more slowly. So you can compare this. The workbook I'm using now is the one you will get at the end of the presentation. So you can look at it in your own time. Then there's a short list of words, name range 1 underscore, and that's just the words from which we pick. The first thing I need is a formula to pick a word from the playlist when the game starts. Now, Wordle and most other versions of the online games allow you to play just one game a day. So they have a very simple indexing rule. The hidden word is indexed into the list of words according to the date. So as the date rolls over at midnight, the next number picks the next word in the list. And that's a pretty simple indexing rule. I wanted to have the ability to just play the game again and again in true addictive manner. So I decided to use a random selection. There's a wrinkle in random selection, of course. If you have a formula which generates a random word, that's going to change every time a calculation is done in the Excel model, which means every time somebody types a letter. And it wouldn't be terribly helpful to have the hidden word changing every time you type a letter. So the way I have the rules fitted is that once you have the first word in, it's fixed and doesn't change after that. And you'll see how that's done. I had another way of doing it involving an Excel data table, and then using the setting in Excel of calculation automatically except for data tables. I soon discovered that didn't work because the mobile version of Excel doesn't have an F9 key, so there was never any way to do the calculation. The conditional formatting to show the colors as expected. The main wrinkle in this, and I'll spend a little bit of time talking about this, is how do you handle repeated letters? If there's one O in the word that you're trying to find, and you type in 2 in the word that you're guessing, like books, only one of them can turn blue or orange. The other one has to be gray. So a simple search and saying, oh yeah, color this letter if it exists in the word isn't going to quite work. We have to be a bit more laborious about it. And of course, data validation to allow only one letter per cell. Oh, by the way, the formatting should not show until the word is complete. If, as you typed a letter, it instantly changed color to say this is in the word or not, that'd be a bit too easy. You just keep changing the letter until you got the word. Everybody was to solve it in one go. So I make you fill in the full row just to be sure that it's more like the real game. And obviously, at the end, when you actually guess the word or not, it gives you an appropriate message, and that's it. You can then start again. So here's the design. We have a grid from A2 to E7. You can just about see that up here. I'll show it to you on another screen in a moment. And you've 5 letters per row and 6 words, 6 possible guess words to match with the hidden word, the target word. The key formula is one which says when you actually have a valid word. So the visible columns are A to E, then the hidden columns from F onwards contain all the calculations. And I'll be stepping through those to see how they work. In column H, we have a formula which returns true when you have a valid word in row 2, and you have the same thing in rows 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And here's how it goes. As you can see, the top row is A2 to E2. So we concatenate these 5 cells together and then do a match of the resulting word in the double underscore list, which is a list of valid words. If there isn't an error, then yes, it's a valid word, and we can accept that, and the game starts at that point. By the way, you can use concat as well, but as I say, I was trying to keep this compatible with older versions of Excel, so a lot of the formulas are fairly simple. There's another column which counts the number of letters in each row. So if K2 is 5, then it means you have now entered 5 letters in that row. So these are the kind of supporting formulas that will drive things like the formatting and the validation and so on. Now, the formula to select the random word is down here. simply you index into the single underscore list, the short list of words to guess, by using a random function times the number of words in the list. And that gets you a random word from the list. As I say, that changes every time you make any change in the sheet, anytime it's calculated. So at some point we have to stop this endless calculation of picking of new words. And that is done once the first row is complete. So the formula here says once K2 is equal to 5, that's it. The formula in Q2 will now return itself as a result. Otherwise, it keeps on generating the random number. So once it reaches 5, it stops, and the value in Q2 stays there after that. The perceptive of you will notice that therefore Q2 is referring to itself, which is a circular reference. I know, I don't care, it's what works. Now, obviously, to prevent a circular reference warning, I have to turn on iterative calculation. You can see if you look at the file options, it's in there. Iterative calculation, allow maximum 10 iterations. We need to have 10 to have each chain of calculation pretty well complete. And for that reason, this game workbook, the Word XLE workbook, must be the first you open in a session in order to enable iteration. If you have some other workbook opened first, that's the one that determines Excel's calculation mode. This is one of the quirks of Excel. That's usually the one people discover when they start using manual calculation to handle slowly calculating workbooks. They turn on manual and then suddenly realize that turning it on for one affects every other workbook they open until they change it back again. So that's the only wrinkle in this. It must be the first workbook you open in a session to enable the iteration. If you open it later, you'll get the Excel circular reference warning, and that's a bit ugly. And then there's a whole pile of supporting calculations. So for example, in columns R to V, it splits the word chosen here is hello, for example, in Q2 is split up into its individual letters for subsequent testing. So let's have a look now at the conditional formatting rules that I created. The basic rule is that once you have 5 letters in a row, we can have a look in column H and say, yeah, it's all there, and the letters are gray. If, however, cell AF2 is true, and AF is a test for the letter being present in the word, it's blue, and as top priority, if cell X2 has a value of true in it, or a value of 1, this is a letter that is not only in the word, it's in the correct position. So if it formats it as amber, orange. So that's these are the formatting rules, and these are their priorities. So let's have a look at the formulas here. I'll be going over to the actual formulas in a moment, but this is just the text which describes the whole thing. So there's a fair degree of talk first. The orange is the guess letter in the correct place. So the rule in the conditional format is if both H2 is true, if it's both a complete word and the letter is in the final word. So X2 is 1. And this is the way that it works. If you look at the picture underneath here, I have my guessed, I put in the word state here. Yeah, the hidden word over in column Q is pasta. So this T here matches that T there. So there's a 1 over here. So these 5 are the exact match tests. So once you have a 1 in there, this allows this cell to turn orange. And the rest are as yet undecided. In a moment, we'll look to see how the blue cells are decided. But that's basically how we do the exact test. Now, here's the wrinkle. If there's a second T in the word, just because a T is there doesn't mean, okay, it's a T in the word, it has to be a blue. No, because we've already accounted for this T here. So the way we do that is I actually extract the letters from the word. So I create copies of the original word with the letters removed and replaced by a space placeholder. So subsequent tests can still test if the remaining remaining bits of the word contain the letter of interest. And so this is how it's done. If A2 equals R2, it's a space. So here, the complete formula, I'm going to go a bit faster here and then show you the formulas on the next page, next tab. Here it is here, AM2. If X2 is true, then there's a P in the word, so we get a blank. Otherwise, it gives us whatever is in R, and so on all the way across. So the first thing that we do, the first stage of our process is to remove any exact matches. So we end up with PAS A from the original pasta. Now, this is kind of like alphabetic spaghetti. So now we have to go on to the next stage, which is doing the test on the letters which are present. I want to talk a little bit about the search function, because this is how it's done. If you search, I'm giving an explanation of how all the functions work. Some of you may already well know how things like search and so on work, but I will explain them just to be safe. The search function searches for the first string in the second. So searching for O in worry returns true, whether this is a capital or a lowercase, so it's case insensitive. If you're interested in a true or false or a 1 or 0 result, you've got two ways of expressing it depending upon what you want to get. If you want a true result for a letter being found, you would use is number. This number will return true. Yes, it's a number if it's found, and if it returns false if it's an error. Whereas is error of the search will return true if it's not in the word. So just pick whichever version you want. Be careful though, searching for an empty string will always return 1. That the empty string is always a subset of every non-empty string. And of course, as we start off the game, some of these cells all begin empty. So we begin matching every single letter. So we have to mind that. And the way that we do it is we make sure that the length of it is equal to 1. So there is a letter there, and it's found in the word that we're searching. And this, by the way, isn't strictly necessary because I do remove letters, but I have double checks in all these formulas just to be sure. So here, for example, you can see that this first one is where the T has been removed, so you have PASA. Now, for the remaining letters, it tests the S. It looks through past and says, oh yes, there is an S, it's in the third position, so we can take out the S, so you have PA blank blank A. Then looks for a T in the PA double space A, doesn't find it, so it's gray. Then it comes to an A, it looks for an A in PA A and finds it in the second position. So this A becomes color blue. It is now taken out of the word. So you've just got a P and an A left. And the final T is already taken care of, and there's no E in it. So you end up with the P and A. So that's the process of elimination. I'm sure Alan will probably, I saw, saying he loves Lambda. You could probably devise a recursive Lambda which iterates through the 5 letters and dissolve this in one cell. I haven't bothered, but it'll be an interesting challenge to have a go at that. As now that these formulas handle recursion. So I'll leave that bit. You can read the rest of that yourself in your own time. I'll go on to the example on the next sheet just to show you it working. Little word on the data validation. The validation rule is, yes, we have to be allowed to enter into this row. the length of the letter has to be 1. You can't put 2 letters in the one cell. Has to be between an A and a Z. And you can only enter a letter if you have not entered 5 in the row. So once all 5 in the row, that's it. You can't change that row again. For the 5th and final letter, this is the final test that we do. We also do a check of cell H2, which you might remember from way back up there, does the lookup of the complete word in the valid word table to say, yes, this exists or not. And once it exists, that's fine. That allows you to enter that letter and complete the word. And if any of them fail, you get this alert style. And there's some user messages in columns I and J, which allow easy translation of the various messages in the game. And I have a hint or a spoiler thing where on the right-hand side, if you really want to, it can give you little hints to say, okay, the only words left that fit the ones you've got are these ones here. And you can have a look at this formula here. It basically says, look in the list of words, and if either of the, if it's an exact match, then the mid of each word in the list has to be equal to the letter that you have. Alternatively, if it isn't an exact match, then a search will do, as long as it's present somewhere in the word. And that then gives you a filter condition which allows the full list of 12,000 to be filtered down to whatever number you happen to have. So it's yes, indeed. So let's have a look at an example. Here's the game in English. If you download the original, it has a French version in there as well. There's a little reminder as to what the colors mean up on the top. And I am going to show the hints just for sake of interest. So I don't know if Emily wants to suggest a starting word, but a very popular one I've seen people use is arose. Tab would be help, isn't it? Or OSE. Now, okay, that was bad typing, and of course it says you can't put 4 letters in one cell. Well, that was quite intentional. AR. Now, tab O, tab E. That's more like it. Now, okay. So we now know that the hidden word has an O in the 3rd position, and there's an S somewhere, but it doesn't have an A or an E. Our hints, by the way, is that there's more than 100 words for that particular attribute, which is no surprise. So what do we do for a second guess? Well, we have OE, we haven't got an I or a U or anything. So let's try cloud. Okay. Well, I still have the same O, of course, and we've now gained a C. We know it doesn't have an I, O, or D, I, U, or D. So. Okay, so we have a COS. What kind of words have a COS in them? And by the way, we now see, here's less than 100 possible words, so we can now see that this filter is now showing us the words that it might be. Icons, yeah, I'll have a go at icons. ICONS. Well, I'm afraid that wasn't any great improvement. We haven't learned anything more. And this is often the way it is with what you have to do with Wordle is to try different words, is to eliminate letters. So COS is scone, SCONE, is that? No, I can't try scone or scone, depending on the part of the world that you come from, because I know that it doesn't have an E in it. Sound, I can't try sound, but there's no U or D. Okay, in real life, you would now get out a bit of paper and a pencil and you scribble down words which have COS and keep trying them. Ultimately, you would end up at the word. If I try, I don't know, S. Scoot, for argument's sake. Okay, I've only 2 tries left. At least I've got the S and the O in the right position. We know the C is somewhere else. It has to be one of these here. And anybody care to type a word in the chat to test? That's a good one. S-T-O-C-K. Wow, well done. We have everything right except one. So the final one has to be S something O-C-K. Well, at this stage, I hate losing a game. I'm a bad loser, so I'm going to put in the answer. Okay, whew. Did it. So, those are the yes, those are the messages that we see over here on the right. Okay, let's have a look now at the formulas over here and work away across. Here's the exact matches. In the first case, we have, there's your 5 letters, and the middle one, the O, is a correct match. Down here we have a 10100 because you have the S and the O matching, and so on. So there's the exact match part. I'll scroll across to the right. Oh, I better just yeah, I have the freeze pane set, haven't I? So I should be able to move across to the right and just do a click. Now, here we are. And here is as you can see, that there it removed the O, there it removed the S and the O, and finally the only thing left, well, it was a H. And here is all the filters going in great detail. From the first word, there were 279 possibilities. From our second word, there were only 27, 22, 9, 2, 1. Finally, we ended up at the 1. Yes, Imtiaz had the answer there. So that's the game. That's how the formulas work. It's 20 to 6. No, 20 to 7, I should say. Have I really been talking for 40 minutes? I don't know. Okay, I'm going to claim another 10 minutes at least anyway, just to have a go at the helper, because I do want to talk about the other stuff. And the word helper is when you obviously are playing against New York Times. You don't know the word; it doesn't know the word behind it. All you have to do is to do the best that you can. So it's essentially an exercise in filtering. And I have the whole description of how it works here. There's the filter function. You filter the range according to the criteria. The range is an array. The criteria is also an array, the same size. And the if empty says, if, by the way, it doesn't return anything, just give us whatever you have in if empty. So the filter for the exactly correct first letter is filter the word list called EN, where the left of each word, one letter is equal to the first letter in A2. And now to combine 2 filters, this is familiar to some of you, but again, I'll just take the opportunity of describing this. We can't use a simple function like, okay, let's the and, the left of it is equal to the first letter, and the middle of it, the second letter, is equal to B2. And doesn't work with arrays. If you do and true, 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 false, you get only one result, false, not the expected combination of true and false. The way you do logical calculations in Excel is you multiply them. So if you multiply true, true by false, by true, false, you get a 1 from the true times true, and a 0 from the true times false. And now you can say the filter function for the first 2 letters is filter the list where the mid of it, starting position 1 along is the first letter. The middle of the word from the second letter is equal to your second guess, and so on. And you just increase that for all 5 letters. And now, the problem with the simple test of being equal to is that if the cell is blank, which it is at the start, you're going to get an error because mid equal to a blank always fails. So instead of using the simple mid test, using the simple equals test, I use a search test. And we're going to take the special property of the search of a blank cell. An empty cell always returns 1. So the combination then ends up with this filter function here. It says filter the list for any cell where you get a numeric result out of searching for the first letter of your guess in the first letter of the word, the second letter of your guess, the second letter of the word, and so on all the way down. That's not too bad for 5 letters. You'll see a doozy later on when we have to cater for the unknown letters. But to make that more economical, we can use the Lambda and BYROW functions of Excel. So let me jump right ahead away and explain that. I'm sure I've got 5 minutes to explain that one anyway. Here's Lambda. And it's a way of defining a user-defined function, but in Excel formulas. And for example, the sum from B10 to F10 is 15. If you can create a user-defined function called Lambda, which takes in an array and gives me the sum of the array, and then into that Lambda you pass the array, the range B10 to F10. So you get the sum of that. It's still 15. The way it's meant to work in Excel is you put these Lambda functions into defined names. So for example, define, here it is here. There's a name called Lambda test sum, which has this definition in it. So this is the name of the function. You put brackets on the range you want it to operate upon after that. So you get this. So Lambda test sum, pass in the range that you want, and you get 15 again. You might say, well, fine, sure, I know how to do sum B10 to F10. Why do I need Lambda? Well, here's one possible use of it. I want to get the sum of each row of the of this block from B10 to F12. So we use so we take a function in Excel, a function in Excel called BYROW. We give it the range we want the BYROW to work on, which is the area, the block from B10 to F12. We pass into it a function, which is, this is the function we want to operate upon each row of this. So there are 3 rows in this range, in this block. So we're going to get 3 results out. And the 3 rows in the array will give us 3 rows in the output. And it's going to give us the sum of the row. So here we get the sum of the first row is what, 15, the second row is 5, 2 is 10, and the third row is 35. And another one is to use the product function, which multiplies them all together. So 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 is 120. 2 to the power of 5 is 32. 7 to the power of 5 is 16,807. And so that shows you how you can take a grid, take a block, multiply all the cells in it, and get out a single column, which is the product of all those tests, all those cells. And this is basically how the Lambda function works in the filter. All these are actually 1s or 0s. And if any of them is a 0, the product of them all is going to be a 0. So that's a fail. That word isn't in the output, isn't in the filtered output. If they're all 1, if they all pass the test, then yes, that word, then that's a true result that then appears in the output. So if I look at my formula here, wherever it was, oh yeah, I'm going to, yeah, I'm looking at the actual Wordle itself. Here we are. This is the, for each row in the range, if the search of this returning a sequence of numbers from a sequence of 5 numbers. We multiply them all together and apply the result of this to the range en, which is a list of all the words. So this gives us all the words where all those letters match. So let's have a look at this. Do I have? Yeah, I have another few minutes. I go through this step by step. This one is a bit more verbose. It contains a lot of unnecessary columns, and are there just to illustrate how formulas work. Obviously, you wouldn't be looking at this in real life. You look at the helper itself, but this is just a kind of expanded or verbose version of the helper. But the first one is, this is how the filter function works at the beginning. We take our full list of en. En, by the way, is, I'll better show it to you here. It's this list here. All the words from ahead down to zymic, which is something to do with fermentation. And that's the full list of 12,478 words. I'll just go to K, go back to K here now. And right, so any word which has an O as its third letter comes through to this list here. So 960 of the words have an O as their third letter. So that's this lot here, and there's 960 of them right down to Zooty. Oops, I'll keep on going up too far. No, there. That's the problem with the split screen. The mid function isn't any use because we're going to get a failure by doing a simple equals test. So we use search. Now the search of whatever's in C2 for the third letter of each word currently is giving us 12,478 ones, because every single word has the null string matches that. If I give it an actual letter, like let us say B for argument's sake, the third letter. Now we have the first ones are values. So these words, Ahad, Ali, and so on, are all going to be excluded from the list. And right down somewhere in halfway down the list, you come across Abbas and Abed and Abi. So these have a third letter B. And that's just for looking at the third letter, the letter in C2. When you want to apply all the letters, here we are, you have the filter of the list, and you multiply all these 5 possible combinations together to give you the final filter. So 315 have a B, it's a third letter. And if I look for, let's say, I don't know, pick a D or something, as the last letter, 22 have a B as a third and end in D, in bed, and so on. So that's how it works. The filter instantly responds and gives you the filter of those. Now, if you want to close this chat window, by the way, to have a look now at the possibility of checking for letters which are in the word but not in the correct position. We do some more of these tests. We have this time we use a search function, and we search. I skip these ones here, and time is short, so I go straight to the end result. I cut to the chase. 10 minutes left, so I want to spend 5 minutes on this and need 5 minutes for questions. I haven't seen any questions, so I hope people are keeping up. But this is the filter here, and it says search in the for each of the 5 letters in each word. You take the mid of this sequence 1 to 5. And what we can do is, can I go in here and just yeah, I can yeah, this sequence shows how the initial head is broken up into A, H, E, D. So these are all the, that's the sequence of 1 to 5, the 5 letters of the word. And then we search for each of these 5 letters in the list that we have, and see, and multiply them all together using the product. And this tells us the 22 that we have here. Now, the next one then is I'm going short of time, but I'll just quickly look at this one here again. We want to find letters which are in the word, but not in the correct place. So here we do a search again, but this time we're not looking in just as long as it's somewhere in the word, we will accept that. So if I decide that there's an A in the word, then we get 5,000 letters, and maybe there's an A and an E in the word. There's 1,700 of them, and maybe it contains an A, an E, and an M. Now there's 226 words, and so on. So you can see how this filter is continually updating to show you the words which match this property, that it has a B there, a D there, and contains AEM somewhere. And finally, if this does not have, let us say, a C, then as I scroll across, here's the exclusions, and Acme is not in the word, but it isn't going to be any help. Okay, I'm out of there. I suspect that one is, yeah, I must have done something to that in my changes. I might have to update this workbook before I let you release it. But this one here ought to be showing us the final results at the end. There. So if it doesn't have a C, yeah, the C bit is taken out. I was probably being over filtering and getting an impossible combination. Okay, that's 5 minutes to go. That's about the right time to end. So here's the helper. These are the important columns here, the ones in the color on top and having the lambdas. The rest are just different versions. There is the formula. If you don't have lambda, you have to go do 15 possible tests for 15 possible letters that are not in the word. Lambda 15 is no problem. You want to make it 21 letters, just change 15 to 21 and make sure you have enough space over there on the left. And that's how that bit works. Was there anything else on the thing? Oh yes, that's the lambda examples sheet. I've explained that. Okay, that brings me down to the 5-minute mark. At this stage, I better ask Alan if anybody has any questions at this stage. I don't think we've lost too many people. So there's still 24 there. So as I say, no, that workbook is fine. I was just I thought I had a problem there. I was just being over filtering. You can pass that workbook on to people. Obviously, if those of you who actually try out the workbook do find bugs, please tell me. Nothing is ever perfect, so there's always something crawling around in there. Alan, over to you.
Cheers, Patrick. So I just thought I saw something happen. Right. Intense.
Okay.
So I think it's something that a lot of people, when it's been quite a quiet session, obviously it's been quite a lot to listen to.
Yeah.
Especially here, I think it's something that people need to pick up, and if they're interested in diving deeper, they need to get their hands and
it takes a slower read, but yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Has anyone got any questions or anything? I guess, some of the formulas here might be familiar to people, like search, and then stuff like BYROW. I can imagine not many people in this call have probably dabbled with that yet, I would imagine. If anyone's got anything to say, any questions, any comments for the chat, far away.
I got a question, Alan, if that's okay.
Sure.
Which version of Excel does Lambda start appearing?
It should be Go on, Patrick. You're right.
No, so it's Excel 365, but as you're training every day, you will be intimately familiar with all the versions that people complain about. So I'll let you answer that one, really.
That's right. Yeah, Lambda should be available in 365 now.
Okay. Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, depending what machine you're using, you know, when it comes to work machines, they're generally, 6 to 12 months behind.
Yeah.
No, is that what? Because I know some things can be. Because I've got on my home machine, I've got a 2017 version, but on my work, I got 365. So depending what I need to do, but but yeah, I guess I need 365 to use Lambda.
Yes.
Okay.
Or Excel Online. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That one. Yeah. Cheers. Thank you.
No worries. Anything else? Team? Do many of you play Wordle? I've never actually played it, if I'm being honest.
I've played it on my phone, actually.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Are you good?
I've never played it, but I know Facebook friends that have. Because they advertise the scores.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so taking Granya's question there. Yeah, that's the reason why I'm giving people the workbook, so they can just start at the top left and work through it. And the supplied example from the blog post is obviously just the version that does the minimum it has to do to work and play the game. But this workbook I'm providing here has all the extra columns thrown in just to give examples of things and expand it out a bit. So hopefully it will allow you to follow through things a bit more easily. If not, tell me and I'll make it better.
So many of the words there, I just haven't got a clue what they are.
Oh, I know.
I can see the screen.
Yeah. There's a few, a lot of dialect words in there, I find. But okay.
And I know Lambda's quite new for many people, but the Lambda Explorer you can see on the ribbon there.
Oh yeah,
Patrick is Charles Williams.
I mentioned that. Yeah, this is Charles' thing. Yeah, where you can take a Lambda function and work. So for example, here we are. I'll just quickly pop it up here, and is it control? Why is it control there? Right, thank you. Oh, is there a window popping up that I can't see?
There is now. You're just switching windows on.
Okay.
Don't worry.
No, the problem is I'm probably finding that Zoom isn't bringing it in the front, and that is, if I can't see it, it's going to confuse me. So I'll leave it. But yeah, that when you bring up the Lambda Explorer, it allows you to essentially do the same as the evaluate formula function in Excel, but to do it inside Lambda. So for example, in evaluate formulas, you know, if you select something in a formula and you press F9, it'll give you an immediate evaluation of that. So the sequence 1 to 5 becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and mid of G2, because there's nothing in G2 at the moment, put in the ABC at the moment, and the mid of G2, where am I going? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is, if I have my, yeah, gives you the ABC blank blank, and so on. So it's like that kind of evaluation steps, but you can use it to drill down into what the elements of a formula are doing.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Anything to say, team? Any questions? You can say.
I was just gonna, I've been thinking about this a little bit, and I just had an idea of so I started trying to make it kind of as a project to learn Office scripts.
Okay, yeah.
So really different.
Yeah.
way of making it. But I was thinking it would be cool if you could do it in a way that you could sort of compete with other people. So like, say if you know, like you, I don't know, either you do it at a certain time and then you put a timestamp in it, and then you can like use it as a competition and have an official winner.
Oh yes, yeah. I haven't tried it in I did try it in Excel online just to verify that it worked, but I haven't looked at it in a while. But I'm glad that Alan has confirmed that the Lambda things work in online too.
Cool. Sounds like a challenge, Lee.
Yes,
It's going to be a slow project.
yeah. But you need these things, especially stuff like Office scripts is so new. You need a reason to get stuck in and play, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. Like I can't just read. I can't just read, you know, to learn. I have to do it. So
yeah,
sure. You need a project. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen a couple of the Office script stuff, and for example, the integration of Office scripts with the other Office apps like Outlook and so on do appear to be interesting, but it's still quite a hobbled environment compared to VBA. But on the other hand, it's shared, and that's the huge difference there. So it's worth keeping an eye on scripts.
Well, I came across a few problems that I couldn't quite figure out, and I don't know, like maybe there is an answer, I just haven't figured them out yet. But one of them, I couldn't figure out how to protect cells. I don't know if it's possible to do that. And then the other thing was like having a message pop-up box. Yeah, I couldn't do those things. Yeah, but they're not essential. But
it's growing quick. It's still quite in its infancy though, so I'm not entirely sure whether that functionality is there yet. But then I don't really know Office scripts, so I can't comment.
No, this is the first time I've ever tried using it, so it took me a really long time just to do really basic things. So
Well, it's quite different, especially if your background is, and I don't know your background, Lee, but if it's just in like VBA, there are differences, you know.
Oh, huge differences between that and certainly if you have VBA, you have the programming concepts, but it's the fact that it's essentially a functional language rather than the more normal procedural ones you get in VBA that still causes me some head wrecks.
Choosing your words carefully there. So I'm just checking the YouTube stream. All right, anything else to add to team? Any questions? Thanks for those who've commented in the chat.
Okay, well, thank you all then. As I say, if you have any more questions, when you've had a chance to look at it more slowly, just drop me a line. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, and we'll share these details. Anything that Patrick wants to share, we'll share in the follow-up message. So keep your eye out for that.
Yeah.
And let me stop the YouTube stream at least at this point.